Hello, everybody. Hassan Shariq. I'm back with the stream, and I hope that now I am audible as well. So, kindly for those who are watching, if you could confirm if you can hear me well now. I will be waiting for your response in the chat box, which I haven't received yet. Okay, great, Ozzy. So, hello everybody. Been a while. I was a little busy with a few personal stuff and some work stuff as well. So, have not been able to upload much of the videos on my channel, and we did not have our weekend live Q&A session last weekend. But back in the routine and back with the session. A lot of updates in the last week or so. So we'll talk a little about that. We'll answer your questions as well. First of all, here in Toronto, it's still the Eid going on. So to all of you who are celebrating Eid anywhere in the world, Eid Mubarak. Hope you had some great time with the family. Some parts of the world, I think Pakistan, it's still the second day of Eid. So many of you might be still occupied with that. So enjoy your family time. Some of the updates. So I know a lot of people will ask questions in terms of FSW, the Federal Skilled Worker Program draw. Some of the people will ask about the CEC draws and stuff. Just give me a second. There will be a lot of questions with regard to what is going to happen in the world of express entry. Some updates that have happened. Based on those updates, I will be sharing with you my opinion in terms of how I feel express entry draws will be happening in coming weeks and months as well. So first of all, last week, IRCC announced a new policy update where they have mentioned that from now onwards, any express entry applicant who gets an ITA, so the normal situation is that you get an ITA and you're allowed 90 days to submit all your documents. What they've done is the new policy that they've announced is that there will be an ITA and you will have the normal deadline of 90 days. If any applicant is not able to provide even a mandatory document or fulfill a mandatory requirement for ITAs, for document submission against ITA, IRCC will allow the applicant to submit a letter of explanation for that. And if there is a letter of explanation, such an applicant will be given another 90 days to submit that required document. Now, if at the end of those additional 90 days, you are still not in a position to submit your documents and you've provided an explanation, your application will be kept on hold for an indefinite period, like till the time that you provide. If there will be no further explanation and you've not been able to provide your documents within the 180-day time period, your application will be refused, not rejected, but refused, and you will be refunded all the application fee that you've provided. So based on this is very important. This is important in terms of FSWP applicants. I believe that this particular policy guideline that IRCC has come up with is specifically for the purpose that from now onwards, they are looking at doing more and more FSWP draws. Previously, the reason that they were not doing FSW draws was because there was this apprehension that a lot of people who get ITAs will not be in a position to submit all the required documents, and that could cause delays. There could be rejections as well. This particular policy is in a way indicating that IRCC has brought in some flexibility into the processing of applications, and by allowing this additional 90 days and then further days for submission of documents as well, it is evident that now there will be more and more FSWP draws. So first, good news that it's again, it's not a policy statement, and IRCC doesn't really give out these kind of policy statements just in black and white. But being immigration practitioners, we understand that if there is a new policy guideline that is given, what could be the possible reasons for that? So the whole purpose that we RCICs and immigration lawyers, we feel that this particular policy guideline has been brought into place is for the purpose that IRCC is looking to do more and more FSWP draws. So good news for all of you who are FSWP applicants all around the world. It is expected that from this month onwards, we will see more and more FSWP draws. It's still not a confirmed thing if all the draws will be all inclusive, like FSWP inclusive. It can still be a mix of FSWP and some CEC draws, but definitely there will be more and more FSWP draws. So that's the first thing that I had to share. The second update that has happened is that IRCC has allowed submission of visitor visa applications, online submission of visitor visa applications. So till date, there is a travel restriction, but things have moved towards betterment here in Canada. In the province of Ontario, we were only in Toronto and the Mississauga region was where we didn't have the stage 3 opening. Now we are in the stage 3 opening. So restaurants have opened, a lot of businesses, pretty much all businesses are open now with the social distancing and restrictions in place. So the biggest province of Ontario has opened up, which means that now more and more offices will open up. And the next stage will be where federal government would start opening up things. So definitely this indicates that we will see more and more processing of immigration applications. We will see more and more associated services working more freely, as well as there will be more and more processing of applications. So probably IELTS within Canada, in other parts of the world, will open up. ECA bodies, which were taking a lot of time, they were not accepting as many applications. We'll see quick turnaround times there as well. So that's another positive. The visit visa applications, as I mentioned, if somebody wants to travel, not right now, but maybe the later part of the year, and it is essential travel, they can submit their visitor visa application, and the visitor visa applications will be processed. Again, I must emphasize, not for an immediate travel, like you cannot still travel to Canada until unless you have an exemption, but now you are allowed to submit your visitor visa applications. Third important update that has happened, and this is especially for students who are looking at joining in the fall session. Actually, a few of updates in terms of students who are applying at this stage. So first of all, IRCC has come up with a 2-stage study permit approval process. In this particular approval process, what will happen is that all the applicants who have all their required documents submitted online will have 2-stage approval for their study permit. So first stage approval will be where they will be given an approval in principle in terms of their academics and financials. And based on this, they can start their online study for fall intake. And if they have the first stage approval and they start their study online, this time will be considered as in Canada study and will be eligible for postgraduate work permit. So all those aspirants who were considering starting their study in fall and were a little reluctant because everybody who's looking at studying in Canada is looking for the postgraduate work permit as well. And your eligibility of postgraduate work permit is dependent on the length of study that you do inside Canada. So for many who were, because almost all the universities and almost all the colleges in Canada are offering the fall intake, which is September to December, as an online semester. So people were reluctant if they need to do the online study or not, because that in the previous era, the pre-COVID era, it would have not been considered as in Canada study, and you would have not been eligible for postgraduate work permit for that particular time period. But now the new policy says that you are considered as in Canada for the fall intake if you do online study with this first stage approval. Keep in mind, for study permit applications, if you want to take benefit of this particular two-stage approval process, your application must be submitted online. So paper format of study permit applications will not be considered. Your application has to be submitted online through the CIC account. If you submit your application yourself, or you're submitting it through an RCIC or immigration lawyer, but it has to be submitted online. All those who apply for the fall intake, their applications, and they have, other than the medicals and biometrics, all other required documents are submitted online. Their applications will be processed at a priority, and before your fall start, you will be given an approval in principle for the first stage. And then it will be your admissibility, like your medicals, your security clearances, your biometrics, that will be a second stage. So these are the three important updates that have happened. There are some other updates as well. I will not touch on them. In terms of express entry and predictions as to what kind of draws will happen, what scores. So from now onwards, I expect, and I keep saying this in my videos over and over again, that this is my opinion. This is not an official word by IRCC. Although I'm a licensed immigration professional, but IRCC doesn't really share this kind of data with us. But based on these policy guidelines, I expect more and more FSW draws, FSW inclusive or all inclusive draws happening from now onwards. So people all around the world who are outside of Canada applicants can expect to see invitations coming in. In terms of the CRS scores, so the last all-inclusive draw that we had, the cutoff CRS was at 478. Now, that was high and that was expected. If we have regular FSWP draws, wherein I mean that there is at least one FSWP draw every month, if it's not every 2 weeks, at least one every month, and we have about 3,500 plus applicants invited in that draw, then I expect the CRS score to drop about 3 to 4 CRS points in every FSWP draw. We'll also have to see as to how many people are entering in the pool, and that is a number which is not known to any of us. We have to wait and see. But CRS would drop between 3 to 4 CRS points after every all-inclusive draw. And my own expectation is that the way the things are all around the world, the cutoff CRS for FSW applicants can drop down to around 465, and that's based on the current stats that are there. We'll have to wait and see as to how many draws happen, how many people enter the pool, what is the composition of the pool. Some important source countries, we see that in India there's still a bit of a lockdown, and it is a major source country, some Middle Eastern countries as well. So we'll have to look at a few other factors as well, but I expect the CRS to drop down to close to about 465, depending what is the frequency of the draws and what is the number of people invited in each of the draws. So that's my prediction in terms of the express entry draws happening in the future. And with that, what I will do is that it's not going to be a long session today. I will, as I said, it's still the third day of Eid. Kind of need to celebrate that as well. So I will move on towards the questions that you guys have, and I'll answer those questions, and then we can see if time permits, if there's something else that I need to talk about. So um, Sachin is asking, any hope for 447 CS score FSW before March 21st? 447, Sachin, I believe, is still a bit of a stretch. Looking at the stats that we have right now, the composition of the express entry pool, the people entering the pool, the frequency of the draws, 447 is still a bit of a stretch. You have a lot of time, which is up until March 21. That's about 5 months here, and then that's about 8 to 9 months. So you never know what happens till that time. It might go to that low, but looking at the current situation, current scenario, I don't expect it to fall to 447 for FSWP. My opinion is that right now it might fall down to 465. It may go down to 460s. Anything below that, we'll have to wait and see, only if something really drastic happens. Iman Hamza, Eid Mubarak, Iman, Eid Mubarak to everybody. KKK, hi KK. Before I read your question or whatever, hi to you. We have these nice conversations every time I do this live session. So the KKK asks, missed your last week's session. SINP removed NOC 061 in their last draw. That's disappointing. Also, what are the chances of OINP regular draw NOC 0124 CRS 456? So as I mentioned that now Ontario has opened itself as well. So and because we are expected to see more FSWP draws as well, so most likely by end of August we will see the provincial nominations becoming a little more back to the normal as well. So I expect OINP to have a draw soon as well. Exact timelines, honestly, it's not the right thing to give such kind of false statements at this stage. I understand a lot of people are already in a bit of anxiety all around the world. So I don't really would like to give any kind of specific timelines, but I expect to see an OINP draw in maybe next couple of months. With SINP, also keep in mind that it's not that if a particular NOC is not invited in one draw, it doesn't mean that they've removed it. They have a restricted, they have a list in which they have the restricted NOCs. So those NOCs cannot be invited by SINP. All other knock codes which are part of the list, which is eligible occupations, they can be invited. Yes, at times they do invite certain NOCs in one draw and not in another draw, but that does not really mean that they will not invite them in the later draws as well. So don't sort of lose hope on that. If they've not invited a specific NOC in this draw, they might actually do it in the next draw. So it's not that they've removed it. They always have this little variation. It's not too many, but there's a small variation always in draws, where between 1 to 3 knocks are skipped in alternative draws. Bassam Khalil, is there any chance for FSW draw or for a score of 450? As I only have 2 years of experience, the people entering the pool seems low, and there are around 21K people above me from 450. Very honestly, Bassam, it isn't very likely to drop down to 450 right now. there is a lesser number of people who are entering the pool. But if you look at the breakup, and you do a bit of an analysis of how people are placed within the express entry pool, you see that the number of people who are entering the pool at scores of 450 and above, that's not a small number. It may be less than what we saw in pre-COVID era, but still that number is substantial. And part of the reasons is that there's a lot of CEC applicants who are entering the pool, and CEC applicants tend to have a high CRS score anyhow. So they're still entering the pool. They do not need the ECAs. They only need their Canadian educational transcripts. Many of them might have taken their IELTS or their CILPIP exam before the COVID situation. So it's not that the competition within high CRS score is not that much. So I wouldn't expect the CRS to drop to 450s anytime soon. I don't know when are you going to hit your 3 years work experience. That will greatly increase your chances. We also have to look at the fact as to what your age is. But if your age permits, probably 3 years of work experiences where you'll gain more points. It's going to be about 13 or 15 CRS points additional, and that is where your realistic chances of getting an invite will be. Ozi, Muhammad Ozi, please tell me that how tie-breaking date works. Like if last FL 417 tie-breaking date was okay. So I'll talk about the tie-breaking rule, the tie-breaking date. I've talked about it previously as well, but this is something that a lot of people have confusion. So keep in mind, tie-breaking, first, it cannot be predicted. It changes in every draw. The way it works is, so I'll give an example. Say, for instance, in a particular round of invitation, IRCC invites 100 people. We assume that it is 100 people, the top 100 people. And say, for instance, that the 5 people, the 5 last people, like 95 people had scores higher, and then there were 5 people who had a score of 475. Okay, and on 475 there were actually 10 people, but because IRCC had to pick a total of 100, and 95 had 400 higher score. 5 people, there were 5 spots left. I think I've kind of complicated it by giving this example. So we assume that the score is 476 for 95 people. And then 475, we have altogether 10 people with a score of 475. But IRCC only has 5 spots left. So what they will do is that people, the 5 people on 475 whose profile is oldest in the express entry pool, whose profile was created first, those 5 will be taken, and the 100th person whose profile was picked, that will be the tie-breaking date. So it is just that the last people who last profiles who share the same score, to pick the required number out of those profiles, they look at the oldest profiles, and then whatever number they're left with, they take that. So say if there were 10 people on 475 and they could only pick 5, now those 5 who were not picked, they can come up and they can say that we had a score of 475 as well. Why is that our profile was not picked? So the formula is that your profile was not picked because there were 5 other profiles which were which became part of the express entry pool before you. So that's why they were given the preference. So that's how the tie breaking rule works. And that's why tie breaking rule sort of fluctuates every time around. There's absolutely no way of predicting this. Even IRCC can't predict it. It's just how they pick it. Like, because people share the same score, so whatever number they're left with, they pick profiles which entered the pool before the other profiles. So the oldest ones inside the express entry pool on a specific scores are picked, and that's how the tie-breaking rule is implemented. I hope I've been able to explain that and not confuse you guys a little more on that. Abdullah Zedi, hello, great session. I've been stuck at 417 FSW for some time now. I lose 5 points in a week or so because of my birth date. Should I be worried at 465? So right now, with as high the scores are, a lot of people are worried. You guys as applicants are worried. We as immigration councils are worried, because there's a lot of our clients who are stuck on that as well. Like a large part of my clientele is actually FSWP applicants. From South Asia, from Middle East, from Southeast Asia. And many of them, last 4 months, we didn't have any FSWP draws as well. But 465, although it's competitive, and we still have to wait and see as to how many FSWP inclusive draws we get to have, and how many people are picked. But I do believe that now there will be more and more FSWP inclusive draws, and that will help the cutoff CRS to drop down. And my own expectation is that it will come close to 400, and like the mid 460s. The exact score, we'll have to wait and see. So let's be hopeful. And we've already discussed that there isn't such a large number of people entering the pool. It's the overall number of people in the pool is actually dropping now. So hopefully 465, you will get an invitation soon. Shayamal, hi Shayamal. Hi, is there any upcoming CEC draw? I honestly speaking, I don't expect as many CEC draws now. Although we saw that there was an FSWP inclusive draw, and then we had a CEC draw. So we may have a mix of FSWP and CEC, but all the draws being CEC, I don't expect that. Rather, my own opinion is that now we will have all inclusive draws. But again, my prayers and wishes for me, be it a CEC, be it an FSWP, all of you are like, I have similar respect for all of you. So my prayers are that both of you get your chances. But I do feel that the number of CEC draws from now onwards will be less. Wali Sipten, I kindly throw some light next FSW draws. Wali, I've already done that. Hope you got your answers. Chinuru, and please forgive me if I mispronounce anybody's names. The question is, Canada visitor visa online process is taking too long. Any suggestion on timing? Applied in first week of March 2020. Biometrics also done on early March. I'm from India. So keep in mind, they were not really granting visitor visas at that time, for the reason that if you applied in March, now when there are travel restrictions in place, how do you expect immigration to grant you a visitor visa? There's travel restrictions, and even till now, they're not letting people inside Canada if there are not certain exemptions. So there's a lot of people who already have visitor visas, and they've been traveling to Canada in past years or so, but they're not allowed in at this stage. So depending when you applied in March, I'm not sure what was your intended travel date. Now, if your travel date was any time which was during this whole COVID situation, they're not going to make a decision on it, most likely. Now they've started allowing visitor visa applications But again, it is for time period. Your intended travel date should be a few months from now. So I'm not sure what was your intended travel date, Chinuru. If it was for this particular time, then it may not be granted. What you could do is that you could update your intended travel dates, and then you might have possibility of visas. And again, at this stage, visitor visa application will only be granted if your reason for travel is like a non is like an essential one. If it is a non-essential reason, most likely they'll keep your application on hold, and there are chances of rejection as well. Sunny Lalwani. So we have a question from MSCHE Miss G16. Hello, any updates on the home childcare program visa process? So those it wasn't closed, but as already mentioned, there was a travel restriction, and it was considered as non-essential work for now. So the processing was on hold. And then also keep in mind, depending on which country you were applying from, there's a lot of processing that has to happen in that particular country as well. And all Canadian diplomatic staff were repatriated. They were called back to Canada. So most of the Canadian high commissions do not have the immigration staff that is normally deputed over there. So the capacity to process all these applications was limited, and that's why there are a lot of delays. So don't expect this to be granted anytime soon. At this stage, only work permits, LMIAs, and all these things are only being granted for essential work. And this doesn't really fall into that. So do expect, even if it's essential, there is the requirement of security clearances and all that. So do expect delays with that. But the processing is happening. It's not that the processing is not being done. Moving on. Gagan Barar, I applied under FSWP in July. Can you predict about the timeline, and are they processing normally? So with timeline, and Eid Mubarak. Thank you Gagan. Thanks for the Eid greetings. So you applied in this July. Keep in mind, under the normal circumstances, 80% of the applications have to be done within 6 months. So in any case, you should be expecting it, say, by January. A few of the things, your medicals, your security clearance processing, your criminality processing, that will see some delays, because as I mentioned, immigration staff who were posted in overseas posts in high commissions around the world, they're not in those countries, and at times there is sensitive information. Access to that kind of information is only possible if they are in that particular country. So there can be expected delays, although with a lot of opening, with provincial governments taking it to stage 3 openings, maybe in about a couple of months' time, we might start seeing where some of the Canadian immigration staff might be sent back to these countries. But then there is a lot of question as to what is the situation in the particular country that you are in, because the staff that has to be sent over there, they have to have a look at what is the situation in that particular country, and if it is safe for Canadian government to send back their staff at this stage. But I would say that you should expect it around the beginning of next year. Anything before that might actually be very lucky for you, but I would expect it in the first quarter of 2021 in your case. Rehan asks, 467 in FSWP before December 2020. 467 before December 2020, I see quite a strong possibility, but we'll have to wait and see as to how the future draws roll out. But 467 has a good possibility. Iman Hamza, I can have 15 points from a Canadian accredited medical trading program, 1 2 years accredited medical training program certificate. I can't really, I couldn't really get the gist of your question. It is, you don't have trading programs. I think you mean trade program. If you have a trade program and you're in a trade skill NOC and you have the relevant provincial licensing, you could get those points. But if you don't have a recognized trade program, that will not help. And I'm really sorry, but I'm not really sure as to what was your specific question. If you could repost it, I can get back to it. KKK, no issues, KKK. Eid greetings. Thank you for doing the Eid greetings. Shrayamal, can we consider 1 year if 10 months experience in one country, 2 months experience in another country? Yes, definitely you could consider that. If it is 10 months and 2 months, keep in mind there should not be a gap between that time. And also, this is a little tricky. Now, this depends what if this is your first 12 months of experience, which is required as eligibility, then you cannot have a gap in between. So it means that it has to be 10 months and right away the next 2 months. Like if there is a gap of 1 month in between, be it a gap while you were in your own country, be it a gap if you were moving to another country, that will not be considered as the 1 year eligibility experience. But if you already have 1 year of experience which fulfills your eligibility requirement, then even if it is small chunks of experience like 4 months and then a gap, 3 months and then a gap, that will still be considered in your overall experience. So say, if you, just giving you an example, if you worked for 12 months in, say, India, and as a marketing person, and that 12 months helps you fulfill the eligibility requirement. After those 12 months, say you left that job, for 3 months you were not working, and for next 6 months you were working in India, and then you left that job as well, and for 2 months you were not working, and for another 6 months you were working in, say, Dubai. So now, because you've met the eligibility of 12 months experience in the beginning, so that 12 months plus 6 months in India, 18 months, and 6 months in Dubai, even when you had gaps in between, will all be accumulated and counted as 24 months of work experience altogether. But if this is your first experience, the eligibility 12 months requirement, then if there was a gap in between the 10 months plus the 2 months, then that will not be considered as 12 months. Moving on, we have a good number of questions. I thought that we would be able to wrap it up quick, but can we claim so Subu is asking, can we claim experience before graduation which we gained outside Canada? Yes, you can definitely do that for express entry, work experience during studies, work experience before graduation is all counted for. If you are a CEC applicant, or even if you're an FSWP applicant and you're in Canada now, you actually get points for, in terms of experience, you get points for two different streams, like foreign work experience and Canadian work experience. And people who have at least 1 year of foreign work experience and then they have Canadian work experience as well, they get to have a lot of points because of that. So any work experience that you've done outside of Canada will still benefit you. Okay. Daljit, my CRS is 459. Is there I've already answered that, Daljit. 459 still is a bit of a stretch. 460s, mid 60s is where I see expected realistic possibilities right now. Rohan asked, I just turned 31 and lost points now at 457. Have given my ECA to CES for my MBA, which will increase my score to 465 by October 1st week. Hopefully, any chance for FSW? If you're in mid 60s, 464, 65, then there is a possibility. But let's see how many FSWP inclusive draws we get to have. Moving on, Rohan again has a question. If I get SINP before FSW, should I go for it? I am from the IT industry, Knox. See, a lot of people ask me. I've got this query from my signed up clients as well, from the social media queries, that I got a PNP, like OINP invitation. My score is just on the border. Should I wait for FSWP? In current situation, we don't know if there will be as many FSWP invitations, rounds of invitations. We don't know what will be the cutoff score. A bird in hand is always better than two on the bush. So until unless you're just there on the margin, I would recommend, in the current situation, if you get any provincial nomination, any invitation, go for it. See, you will move to Canada. Okay, ideally, most of us would want to live in the bigger provinces, like the province of Ontario or maybe BC. If right now you're not able to do that and you even get to a smaller province, that's only about 2 years that you have to live over there. After that, if you wish to relocate, you can do that. And also keep in mind that first, Canada is cold all over, so you can't really escape cold. Even if you're in Ontario, or if you're in, even if you're in Vancouver, it's not going to be that much of snow, but it's still going to be cold. So first, you can't escape snow. Plus, Canada as a developed country, even if you go to small towns, yes, it's not going to be as much of buzz as you have in Toronto or Vancouver or maybe Montreal. But even if you go to a small province, a small town, you'll have great health facilities, you'll have great education for yourself and for your children. The quality of life will be pretty much the same. So your focus at this stage, with all the uncertainty that is out there, should be that if you get a provincial nomination, go grab it, get into Canada, and then see what are the opportunities you have. So if you get a SINP invitation, don't have a second thought. Proceed with that, and then see how things go for you later on once you're in here. Ibrar, assalamu alaikum. My NOC 416 is not selected from many months in SINP occupation and demand. Should I change the NOC? If yes, what will be the best for draw? Because see, now changing NOC is not an option for everybody. Yes, if your NOC is not being invited, then you should consider changing it. But you also have to look at what other NOC nominations you can do that. You can't really, because you have to provide the kind of experience letters. So if you are a marketing professional, you cannot change your NOC to accounting, so you have to look at what are your limitations. But if you can change, and if you've seen that your NOC is not being invited in quite a few draws, then it is always worthwhile to have a change in your NOC, which is closely related to your profession as well. So I would definitely suggest that, yeah, you should do that. In terms of what will be best, very honestly, I can't really suggest it like that. I only suggest NOCs once I review or documentation in terms of what your experience has been. I can't really say that change it to this one, because you might not be able to get the kind of experience or the work experience letters which are required for that particular NOC. Any possibility of CEC draw and cutoff will be 435? Both of these things, I think it will be difficult now. We might not see that many CEC draws happening. And 435, 445 was where it stood last time. I wasn't expecting it to be that high, but I think a good number of CEC applicants have come into the pool, and that will continue. So not really sure if CEC will drop down to 435, even if we have some CEC draws. Ibrar actually now keeping proof of funds is very difficult because of devaluation of our currency. That is an issue for everybody, but you have to manage that. Neelam Sharma, any chance for CRS score 472? FSWP 472, a realistic possibility, but most likely after 2 to 3 FSWP inclusive draws. Hi, Sierra score 460, knock code 3142. Any chances? Not so much in FSWP. It's still a bit of a stretch if it is exactly 460, but you might have some possibilities in some PNPs, but you'll have to look at that. Neelam, can someone tell me, will these PNP issued by Ontario and Saskatchewan affect the CRS cutoff for all program draw? They do and they don't, Neelam, because first, if somebody gets an invitation from a province, it's not that their express entry profile from within the express entry pool goes out. No. Because if somebody gets an Ontario nomination, their express entry profile is still intact. They move with their process of the provincial scrutiny, provincial application, and only once they get a nomination from the province, that is when they get those extra 600 points and they move up in the range of score of 600 to 1200. So till the time that they get the PNP letters, it doesn't really impact. So if today there are 600 NOIs issued by Ontario, for example, it's not that those 600 people will move out of the pool. They'll still be there. So it doesn't really impact right at that time. Yeah, the PNP nominations, like we were having the PNP and CEC separate draws, those PNP draws that were happening, they were taking these people out of the pool in a way because they got nominations under express entry through PNP, so they moved out. So these provincial invitations at this stage do not really, they do have an impact, but it is a very small one, not something that you would factor in too much. 473 chances, we have lost 5 points. 473 has a realistic chance, but as I mentioned, maybe about 2 more FSWP inclusive draws. That is when we might see 473 cutoffs. Subu, I have studied 12 months full-time program in Canada, but I only got 10 months PGWP and I have full valid passport. Can apply for extension with the that is a challenge. Postgraduate work permits do not get to have any extensions. It will be very, very difficult if you get that extra. That is why, like a lot of clients that we have, we always work on this where we ask them to, before PGWP, we ask them to have their passports renewed and apply with enough time on their passport so that they can get the PGWP for an equal amount of time for their studies. An extension most likely is not possible in your case. Nadindla Prasanna, hi sir, if our post-graduation work permit expires after 3 years, can we extend our work permit if we have a full-time job with the current high PR scores? You cannot have your PGWP extended. So that's how the policy is. You could apply for another work permit, but you cannot apply for an extension of your PGWP beyond the original expiry date that it has. Rashid Uraish, hi, my wife is teacher and MSc will know about immigration. Rashid, I can't really answer with just these things. Teachers can have immigration, but only under FSWP stream. Shubpreet, I work as sub-inspector in Punjab Police. Am I eligible for any PNP? Shubpreet, as a law enforcement officer, you can apply for immigration. There's absolutely no bar. But most likely the PNP will not be, I don't know of any PNP where right now law enforcement officers are part of it, you might have to look at the FSWP applications. Rashid Warais, teacher in government school in Park and 3 years experience. Definitely, Rashid, if she meets the requirements for the FSWP category, she can apply 3 years experience, maximum points. If her age is less than 30, she will be required to have CLB 9 in IELTS, and she must have 18 years of education. Harpreet Arora, what are the success chances to get PNP nomination, which is going on in OINP FSWP? Now, Harpreet, OINP is a very attractive program. A lot of people get invites through that. We'll have to know your details to comment on that. There are 2 different kind of draws. One is the tech draws, and the other is the general draw. In tech draws, there are about 7 to 8 tech professions, software engineers, web developers, people like these. They get to have their invites. In the general draw, they invite marketing and sales people, auditors and accountants, finance people, business management people. So that is a good possibility as well. It's only these about, I'd say in total about 12 to 13 NOC codes who get to have invites under OINP. And the cutoff CRS has been on the higher side. Lately, it has been close to 450s and 60s, but a realistic possibility, maybe in coming months, will be close to 440s. So that's how OINP is. For OINP, you do not have to submit a separate application. They pick profiles from within the Express Entry pool. Moving on, we are almost at 50 minutes, so another 5 minutes, and then we'll call it off for today. Navpreet, hi sir, need your guidance please pertaining to LMIA NOC selection. I'm in sales and marketing, professional tech sales, NOC 061. Is it okay I get shortlisted by an employer who is see, if you're applying for an LMIA, then I'm not sure why are you because if it's a work permit in LMIA, your employer will have this thing nominated as to what NOC employee they require. So you do not really need to be nominating that yourself. It depends as to what the job requirements are. But if you're applying for an immigration category, that is when you have to nominate your NOC. Into marketing, non-technical products, NOC remains 0601. Harpreet, how much time paper application takes for PR after getting PNP approval under OINP FSWP? I don't know if how could there be paper application? Like for Express Entry, it's not a paper application anymore. Even if you get OINP invitation, that is still not a paper application. It's an online application. So I'm not sure what are the 2 different things that you're mixing up. SIMP has one stream. The Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program has one stream which has a paper-based stream. And keep in mind that paper-based applications can take up to 2 years. Nandini Suresh, will CEC will continue? My score is 443. Highly unlikely that CEC will continue at a pace that it was happening since March. We might have a mix of CEC and FSWP inclusive draws, but if there is a CEC draw, I think 443 can be a realistic score. But let's wait and see if there will be any more CEC specific draws. Amrita Kaur, my CRS score is 465. Is there any chance for getting invitation under FSW? I've already sort of answered that. You could look at the video. 465, I feel there is a realistic possibility in a few draws, which are FSWP inclusive draws. So let's wait and see if we get to have those draws. If the frequency of those draws is good, maybe about 4 to 5 FSWP inclusive draw, and it will be close to 465. Priya, sir, we planning to move in 2021 through PNP or express entry. What do you suggest? For sure, you can move without any more details. I can't really say as to what your profile is, if you qualify for any of the streams. But yes, express entry is there, PNPs are there. You could definitely move in 2021 and beyond that as well. Now, Preet, hi, I need your guidance pertaining element. Now, Preet, I've already sort of tried to answer that. For LMIA, it doesn't really work like that. It is your employer who would suggest as to what the knock is, because they have to have their LMIAs done against that particular knock. Arjun Mehta, hi Shariq, Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Arjun. To you, would you still recommend accepting the nomination if we have an invite from Prince Edward's Island? Arjun, if I was you, I would not have a second thought. Prince Edward Islands, you getting the nomination, go grab that, move to that particular province, and then see what possibilities you have. At max, you stay there for 2 years. And also keep in mind, sometimes people think that it is better to move to Toronto and Vancouver. These cities, yes, they have more opportunities, but the competition is huge. And now with the COVID situation, the economic impact has already hit Canada's economy. There's layoffs, there's people losing their jobs, not getting as much salaries that they would have expected previously. Being in smaller provinces and smaller towns can actually be beneficial. Your cost of living will not be as high. You still get the benefits from the government. The medical is free all around Canada. The education is free for yourself and your kids. So you get those benefits all around Canada. Your cost of living is low. And in smaller towns, maybe because there's not as many immigrants coming to those places, landing into your first professional job might be way easier compared to the Torontos and the Vancouvers and the Montreals. So not a bad idea in the current situation as well to move into a smaller province, get into your professional line of work, gain 1 year, 2 years of Canadian work experience, and then you can move anywhere in Canada. So absolutely no second thought if I was in your position. Napreet Shariq, please clarify my above query. I'm still in doubt. I will prefer dual intent LMI as I am around. Napreet, honestly, I don't have the details, and I am not able to get your question. For LMIAs, a specific NOC has to be nominated. Now, if you and that nomination is to be done by the employer and not by you, because the employer applies for an LMIA. So I'm not sure what you're asking as to how you nominate. It is your employer who has to nominate the NOC for an LMIA. So last question that I'll answer, and this is by Subu. Can I apply for CEC as I got invite, but at the moment I am in employed status? As I mentioned before, I only 10 months PGWP, but I have put application for extension. Can I use this time for applying PR? As long as you are in status and you have experience in Canada, that can be considered. So with legal status, once you have 12 months of work experience in Canada, and it's not required to be in one go. It can be in breaks as well. So once you have 12 months of experience, you can apply for under the CEC. So 12 months. It can be in parts as well, and all throughout that time you must be having legal status within Canada. So if you've not lost the status, altogether 12 months of experience in Canada, you could apply that. And that's all we for the questions that we had. There is one question from Merlin Matthew. Hi Shariq, I have a CRS score of 468. What will be your prediction with reference to receiving an ITA? I've answered this a few times already. 468. As long as we see frequent FSWP inclusive draws, I see a realistic possibility of the cutoff CRS score dropping to 460s, probably close to 465. So 468 has a realistic chance, dependent on the frequency of draws. If we have regular draws, probably in about 4 to 5 draws, we might see 468 CRS cutoff hitting. And that's the last question that I would answer for the day. Thank you very much for joining me, for all the great feedback that you guys provide. I would highly request, not recommend, but request to kindly give feedback on the channel, on the video. Do subscribe if you've not already done. Click on the like button, comment, so that the YouTube algo helps me, and my channel can grow, and I can provide you guys with more and more information of Canadian immigration. That's all for now. I'll see you next weekend with another session on Canadian immigration. Till that time, take care and Allah Hafiz.